It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudists, and Naturists.
Welcome to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Well, greetings and welcome into Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 107 today. Really glad to see you again. Glad that you're with us, ready to enjoy clothes-free living for all of the right reasons for the next hour together. And yes, the pool is ready. The hot tub is fired up. The grill is going full bore. Cold drinks off to the left. Hot drinks inside. Cigar bar in the back left corner of the pool area. Not in the pool, but in the pool area in the far back left corner. We are just glad that you are here. We have extra towels, extra suntan lotion, extra chairs. We have it all for you to just wander in and enjoy the sun on your skin, the breeze on your skin, and of course, as I've already said once, clothes-free living for all the right reasons for the next hour. Well, on today's show, Lisa Monroe will be here in just a moment. We'll talk about a variety of things, including what today is all about, and that is National Skinny Dipping Day. If you have a chance to hop in a pool or the ocean or a lake or even a bathtub with no clothes on, go for it in honor and in celebration of National Skinny Dipping Day. How about that? And we will also have part one of my interview with Jack and MARYANNE. They are from FloridaNakations, a very exciting group, getting everyone together in the state of Florida. We're stronger together, and that's what Jack and MARYANNE are all about. So part one of my interview with them today. And, of course, part two will be on next week's show. If you get a moment, please take that moment to like, subscribe, review, all that good stuff. Takes about 5 seconds on whatever podcast platform on which you are listening and our YouTube channel. Just click the button, subscribe, review. 5 is the highest, by the way. Just thought I'd point that out. And if you want to say a few words with your review, so much the better. Well, you're listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 107. Don't know about you, but I think I hear some music, do I? Yes, I do. It's time for the great, the terrific, the completely over the top, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. And here she is, the one-of-a-kind, the completely clothes-free and fully smiling, our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
Good morning, Frank. And as you notice, I did no dancing. I did no movements of any kind as I walked in.
I'm not sure if that's true. First of all, I wasn't looking at you, as you know, but out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw some movement from a seated position. I did not notice you getting up. Were you dancing in your chair?
I might have swayed a little bit, but no flailing about the studio.
Had I looked at you during that intro, would I have laughed or lost it, or was it reasonably calm?
That was reasonably calm, but you might have laughed anyway.
I think we're going to get to the point where during your intro, I'll have to have a microphone behind me and I can just spin my chair around, do the intro, spin around, use this microphone, and then we'll be good to go. That might be the only solution.
Might be, or I could stop dancing. So, but I could be like a calm, normal person coming in to do radio.
I've never requested that. Let's be clear.
No.
I've never said, Lisa, stop dancing. I've never said that or even hinted along those lines.
No, you have not. So that's to your credit.
All right. Speaking of, I was thinking about this. I've been thinking about it a lot after seeing you dance last week. Mm-hmm. You're actually pretty good. I mean, you're a pretty good dancer. You move and groove with the beat really well.
Thank you.
Is that from your training as a dancer, or is that unrelated, do you think?
I would think possibly part of it's training. I took ballet for, goodness, I don't even know how long. From the time I was about 6 until I was 16, I took ballet. Then I couldn't for a year or two. Mm-hmm. And I just started dance class again in college and choir once again in college. And guess what? Oh. Science labs got in the way. So I had to drop out of both. But I think so. I think it gives you a sense of how to move your body with music and follow those leads. So I think it helped a little bit.
Okay.
And maybe I just have natural rhythm.
That could be. Maybe you're just naturally gifted.
Yes, we'll go with that. Right or wrong, and probably wrong. We'll go with that.
Nothing pompous or arrogant about saying, I am just naturally gifted, and that's nothing I can do about it, right?
This is true. And I want to say again, just so no one Frank can dance. And now, he's got a few moves. So I was just kidding him last week. So
All
anyway.
right. That's a very good save.
I try.
Very quickly, years ago, a long, long time ago, I was in a position that involved zero music whatsoever. But because of a talent show they threw on, people wanted me to try something like, oh, you got to do something, Frank, even though they didn't know about my background really. Thought, okay, I'll get up there and play a drum solo. I'll just,
Yeah.
beat the heck out of the drums and have a good time and show off. And so I did that. And this one guy came up to me later, a very skilled, intelligent guy, in probably what we need for this show. He's a psychologist. We probably should have him coach us along here. But he said, he complimented me. He goes, "You're really good at this." He goes, "Better than most people I've heard." He goes, "Is that where does all that come from? Just practicing, nonstop?" And I said, "Well, yeah, a lot of practice." I said, "But really, it's a gift." And he looked at me and he said, "Well, don't you think highly of yourself?" And I said, "No, the opposite. I'm not taking any credit for this other than I worked hard. But the beginning of the talent, anyway, was already there. And that's true with everybody in the world. You have at least one and maybe 1,000 different talents that are given to you at birth. And whether you discover them or develop them, that's up to you. But that's what I meant. So when I was joking with you, maybe you're just naturally gifted. On the one hand, I was being funny, but the other hand, that's kind of how life works, isn't it?
It is. And I think you look at athletes and you see some athletes that struggle and work hard to do what they do. And then you see others who just literally don't even break a sweat and they can make the greatest plays. They can make the greatest, moves. They can, and the brain's functioning at the same time. So yeah, I think that there are certain things that make a difference for individuals. And like you said, whether or not they find their skill is questionable. Sometimes it depends on what they're exposed to.
Now, on the other hand, I will say nobody has ever said to me in writing or verbally, "Frank, you are a gifted plumber," or "Frank, you're a gifted electrician." Nobody's ever said those words to me. So I want to make that clear.
I've had a few of those too, trust me.
Yeah. Any gifts we might or might not have are limited. It's not, we are the world, we can do it all. No, we can't. And I purposely will not do anything electricity wise. I don't know enough. And so rather than get in there and blow the house up or blow myself up, I always hire somebody for things like that. I just don't know. A lot of people do. They have a gift for it. I don't. So full admission. How about that?
That works for me because it's the same way. My dad could do nothing around the house. My mother was a handy person, but he did know electricity.
Okay.
And he showed off every time, every place I ever moved, I ended up getting dimmer lights in all the rooms because I hate overhead lights. And he was just, "I'll do them for you." And he'd be running around the house putting dimmer lights on all the place. And, so he came in handy, but that was about it, all of his motor skills in that way.
Nothing wrong with being limited in scope, I guess,
No,
right?
apparently not.
All right. Well, let's get to it. We have, as everybody knows, a Patreon page. Used to do this show for free, gave up paid work to do it. Very unintelligent move. We turn to you as the listeners, and you've helped us out quite a bit to meet expenses here. And we call you our PPPs, our paying Patreon peeps. And Lisa Monroe, we have some people today, some peeps today. Who are they?
We have two, well, actually three peeps, but two are like we have it set. One is Roger, who we welcome very much, and thank you for coming on board with us, and Bill and Maria. And it's nice to see a couple kind of join. I know that we have a lot of people who have their families involved too, but it's just nice to see that they both are here. So welcome, Bill and Maria, and thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Bill and Maria. We're glad to have you aboard, and whatever we can do for you, let us know. We're here to please you. We're here to please everybody in the naturism community. How about merchandise, your bailiwick around here, or anything
No,
new and exciting to tell?
well, just kind of the same stuff. It's getting, it's getting in the middle of summer here, so I'm sure people are out and doing things. So take a look at our shop, and I think there's some things there. There's water bottles, there's Stanley kind of things. I probably shouldn't say Stanley, but anyway, those tumblers. That's what word I was looking for. We have towels. If you want to carry a towel around to sit on, we've got those, and we've got coolies, and we've got hats, and so we've got all kinds of things. And I'm seeing an awful lot of this stuff go out, and it's just really terrific. Hope people are enjoying it.
Absolutely. We thank you for picking up our merchandise and showing off around town. Just proudly walk into your grocery store, post office, church with a naked nudist and naturist shirt on. We'd appreciate that very much. Your minister might not, depending on where you go to church, but we'll deal with that down the road. And I was thinking last week, and I didn't double check on this, was supposed to be the debut of the new anthology from the great naturism anthology triumvirate, Will Forrest, Ted Bunn, Paul Z. Walker, a book entitled Bare Skies Ahead. So we wanted to put that out there. We believe it's out. Really need to check on that. Sorry about that. But check it out, Bare Skies Ahead. You can find them at naturistfiction.org. And I'll be getting my copy soon. Lisa, how about you?
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't realize that it had been published. I knew it was upcoming, so I'm going to go get mine too because these anthologies have been fabulous. I've read, I think, every one of them now. I think I may or may have missed one, but they're really good, and it's great to see naturism and comes into a story, and it's just really fun.
And these three guys work their tails off too on these anthologies, Paul, Will, and Ted. So hats off to you and another great job. And we'll wait for the next one to come down the road. I don't know when that'll be. You can only do so many and so often because it's so much work, right?
It is. I've put novels and anthologies together before, and I can tell
Yeah.
you that it is not easy. So the hats off to them for continuing their own writing careers and other things, and then putting this together for the naturism world. Pretty good, pretty cool, good dudes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, today is National Skinny Dipping Day. I know that I will be partaking. How about you? Maybe we can just do that right after the show.
Oh, let's go jump in the pool. That sounds great to me. Because that's the only way to swim, isn't it? I saw someone the other day say that this is our natural bathing suit, so you don't have to worry about carrying one with you. And unfortunately, some places you do, but it's just fabulous. I love jumping in a pool nude. It's just fun.
I didn't tell you this, probably should have told you this, but I had this elderly woman living next to me for a long time, and she moved away. She was in
Yeah.
her 80s and moved very far away, like 1,000 miles away to be with her family. A couple moved in, an older couple. They're both older than I am, married, man and woman.
Mhm.
And I kind of got used to just being in my pool with no clothes on and laying in the sun with no clothes on. And I continued to do it even after they haven't totally moved in yet, but they're there a lot, getting the house ready for when they do move in. And I've never seen them out there while I've been out there. I've seen them out there before, but no problem. I've been out there, weeding or whatever I'm doing with clothes on. But when clothes are off, I make sure, okay, they're not out there. Good, we're good to go. And I just keep it safe that way. Well, a week or two ago, I saw them out there while I was trimming bushes or whatever. And they came over and talked. We're talking about one thing after another. And the woman said, I'm guessing the woman who lived here before us was never outside in the pool area. And I said, and instantly I thought, oh, shoot. And so I said, oh, no, she was out, quite a bit, especially in the summer. She'd have friends over and they said, oh, okay. Well, it just struck us. Well, never mind. We just assumed she was never outside. So I took that as a message. Hey, pal, you need to get some clothes on. But I don't know how they would have seen me because I'm really careful about that. Unless they peeked out the window at the exact nanosecond where they could have seen something. I don't know, but I guess I need to be careful or maybe not. Who knows, right?
I don't know. People just need to get over themselves and stop looking at everybody else and seeing what they're doing. Worry about your own self, the little busybodies that are annoying, but more than likely, they probably did. Maybe they just didn't feel that the patio been used, or maybe they did see you. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll keep my eye on that. We'll see how it goes. And, I never need to be seen. There's no desire to be seen if I am. I have no problem with that either, but I don't get out there and say, hey, look at me. No. So I'll give you an update on that, and if I call you for bail money, you'll know what the outcome was.
Yeah, keep me informed, and I'll come get you out if you get into trouble.
All right. So National Skinny Dipping today, sponsored by the American Association for Nude Recreation. And tomorrow also ends Nude Recreation Week, which AANR has been sponsoring. Started last Monday, ends tomorrow, Sunday, July 13th. It's been a wild and woolly week, and I know you've had your clothes off more than usual. I don't know if it's because it's Nude Recreation Week or you just had more time available.
Well, part of it was more time available, but also in celebration. I mean, we need to keep cognizant of these kind of things because it's important to keep it in front of us that we have these times to celebrate and enjoy. So if you can go to a new beach, if you can go to a resort, a lot of the resorts are doing special things. If you can get a group of friends together and enjoy it that way. So a little celebration, have a cake. It's okay. It's a good thing. I mean, always an excuse for cake. I'm sorry.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, we have an audio clip we wanted to play today. It's from one of our listeners. He thought maybe we only wanted audio clips for the 100th show from people who were previous guests or who had a big name in the world of naturism. I said, oh, no, not at all. We want them from everybody. And I said, in fact, you can send one in now and we'll play it on a future show. And he did. So let's give that a listen. This is from listener Richard.
This is Richard from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I have been a nudist since, I was born in 1955, so that's a good start. I did not come out with it until the late 70s. I have been to several nudist resorts, including Lake Como in Florida, which is my favorite so far. I have been listening to this podcast since early July last year. I was listening to other nudist podcasts, but did not like the content, language, or lack of organization. Then I stumbled across this one, and it was totally different. It was professionally done, good content, and organized. Not always pleased with all the guests, but overall, I enjoy most guests. You seem to hit the nail on the head on each podcast as what nudism is all about, the joy, the freedom, and the overall beauty of it. I especially like Frank and Lisa's segments. I would like to hear more of them. I would also like to see a picture of Frank, Lisa, and Jennifer, not necessarily nude, but like to see who I'm listening to. So thank you for a job well done.
Well, that was an incredible clip, Lisa Monroe. I don't know about you, but every time I've listened to that several times now, and maybe I should just keep it on my phone. So if I'm having a bad moment or a bad day, I can fire that up. But what a great, I'll just say it, tribute to us and all the work we do here. And we appreciate him and his clip very much.
Oh, very much so. I mean, Richard's a delightful guy, and then to hear him say those nice things about us is really great. And I love the fact that he enjoys the joy, freedom, and beauty of naturism and nudism, and that's what he feels it's about as well. And he wanted more Frank and Lisa segments. He's going to get them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, he is.
He's one of the people who asked. So.
Yeah. He also wants photos of Frank, Lisa, and Jennifer. So I'm going to have the two of you provide him photos first. And if it goes well, then I'll consider providing one. But the two of you just send your photos off today. Is that okay?
Sure. Okay. Yes, you will definitely do that without you. I think not. You're going along with the ride, buddy.
Although he did say not necessarily nude, so he's not one of those weirdos like, hey, baby, let me see what you have. He just wants to know what we look like, and we always tell people, if you picture Robert Redford and Raquel Welch, you're good to go. That's all you need to know, right?
You got it. It works for me.
Until they actually see us someday and say, wait, you don't look like Robert Redford at all.
And no, you don't look like Raquel Welch, so she's a lot taller than me anyway.
Anyway, we appreciate you very much, Richard. And he said, every show of ours, every episode is professionally done, good content, and organized. And I remember hearing this throughout my career in another field where people would say that to me. Mm-hmm. Well, everything you do is professionally done, they would say. And I always get that moment like, is there another way to do it? And I mean serious. I'm not being a wise guy here. We don't know of another way to do anything, whether it's driving our car to the grocery store, cutting the grass. We try to do our best with everything that we do. To me, that's normal and natural. It's also the way I was raised and the expectations of my, parents and teachers and mentors. Is that not the way real life works for a number of people? I don't know.
And I think that one of the fallacies that people have is that even if they're professional at work, sometimes they're not at home. They lose some of those skill sets or they put them aside. But I've never been anything but. I I used to get yelled at by people in the company because they'd walk in and my desk was organized. My desk was neat. My desk, how do you do that? And I said, well, I know where everything is and I put things away when I'm done with them. And my dad taught me a long time ago to stop work about a half hour before you leave, put everything together, put it in a drawer, out of sight, leave your desk clean. And when you walk in the next morning, it's like you have a clean slate. Even you might have thousands of things to do, but it's like you have a clean slate. And I think that's one of the things that we need to do in our own life is that we need to keep the pressure low and, wake up every morning with a clean slate and go about what we need to do.
Well, I won't say it's a sickness to have a clean office because I always strive for a clean office. I've never quite made it, except those days where I do clean it, and then it begins to go downhill the next day. And if somebody says, comes in and says, hey, can I have the file and whatever? I'll say, yes, it's in one of those 3 stacks over there. Give me just a moment. And so I've always been in admiration of people like yourself who, can I have the file? Yes, it's in my blue, slightly purple filing cabinet. It'll be in the 3rd drawer, and you know where everything is. And I do too, but it's just a different system. I know it's in one of those stacks. You know precisely where it is within your office.
No, not exactly. I said my desk was clean. I had stacks in drawers, and I was going, it's in one of these drawers in a stack.
Okay.
No, because but I kept things when I was done. I put that stack back somewhere that I didn't have to deal with it, and I go into the next stack or the next thing that had come in. So I wasn't perfect. I'm not like Martha Stewart doing this.
Okay. Well, it just always struck me like everything that we do and have done, even before we knew each other, we're going to do our best. And especially if our name is attached, we're not going to put anything out that's not professionally done, that doesn't have good content, that's not organized. One quick question for you, and then we have one last thing to get to. If you have on the off day a sink full of dishes, and somebody calls and says, hey, Lisa, I'm coming over in a minute. I want to drop something off. Do you grab all those dishes and throw them in the oven to get them out of plain sight? I've heard that's a trick.
I actually, if that's happening and the dishwasher's empty, they go straight in the dishwasher.
Okay.
If not, if I have enough time, I'll just do them really fast. I'd rather have them in the drainer draining than in the sink.
No, I mean, you have 60 seconds and they're going to be knocking on your door.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, I'd probably just leave them. But there is a trick. There's that I just recently read, and I thought, well, that's not a bad idea. Someone said their grandmother said, you want friends, have friends. You want clean, just you may not have both. So if someone's coming and there's a sink full of dishes, then just take a tea towel and throw over it.
No, that works. That works. Okay, I was just curious.
It's just that simple. Just throw a tea towel. They can't see them dirty, but they know they're dirty dishes. It's okay.
That's good enough. The last thing to mention, we mentioned this last week, we are going to start a Wednesday show, and the first Wednesday show will either be July 23rd or 30th. We're still trying to iron some things out here, but it's coming soon. Today is the 12th, so the 23rd, 30th, not too far away. So I'm kind of excited about that. It's going to give us more time, and it'll feel like freedom to discuss some other things, kind of like we do on this show, but in smaller segments, right?
And I think so. It should be fun, and we are able to do that on the special content that we send to our Patreon members, and we're getting tremendous feedback because we have longer time to discuss things. And fortunately, most of them have agreed with us. There'll be the day when they don't, but if they have a very slightly differing opinion, they'll tell us, and that's what we want from people. Because we're learning together on how to maneuver through this naturism world, and so everybody's experiences are important. And so we hope we can do that.
Well, with that, we're going to head for the hills. My interview with Jack and MARYANNE from FloridaNakations, part 1 coming up. And Lisa Monroe, go out there and have a great clothes-free half hour or so. We'll see you at the end of the show.
We'll be back here and with coffee. How about that?
Sounds good. All right. The very terrific Lisa Monroe as she goes dancing out of here for yet even more coffee. Nothing wrong with that. She does it all around here, behind the scenes, our website work, our merchandise work, and so much more, including these segments. And we appreciate Lisa Monroe very much. We'll see her at the end of the show. And as a reminder, we are the official podcast of the American Association for Nude Recreation. Are you a member? If so, that is absolutely beyond phenomenally great. But if not, you can become a member right away. Just go to AANR.com, follow the navigation through membership, and within moments, you'll be a member just like Lisa Monroe is and just like I am. How about that? Today is your day. If you get a moment, please like, subscribe, and review on our YouTube page, also Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to the show. We'd appreciate that very much. Well, you are listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 107 today. Now let's get to part one of my interview with Jack and MARYANNE from FloridaNakations. We are headed to the Lake Como Resort in Florida. You've heard a lot about that. In fact, Rick Dorsiak was on the show not too long ago. That's where he lives. Well, our guests today live there too with Jack Clark and MARYANNE Reddick. They're all about FloridaNakations. And for a long time, naturism, nudism in Florida was you had a bunch of groups out there doing their own thing. And they've come up with this idea, if we band together, we'll have a stronger voice, we'll have more power when we approach various government officials at state and local level. And now it's a thriving group, and we're making a big difference in the state of Florida with this group. So let's welcome to the show MARYANNE and Jack. First of all, MARYANNE, good morning. How are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Good to have you here. And Jack Clark, how are you, sir?
Good. Busy, but very good.
Busy is good. Keeps you out of trouble, keeps you off the street, keeps you pushing for naturism, right?
It does. And it's a fun thing to do. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, just go for it. Just dive in, Jack or MARYANNE or both, and tell our listeners exactly what's going on with FloridaNakations and how it started and some of the differences that you've made already.
Okay. Well, again, it started back in 2021 as a concept due to a conversation with a lobbyist and MARYANNE back then that something was needed to represent the groups kind of in an economic unified force to show what we're worth to the state of Florida. And that's where kind of Fawn brought it back to actually the Tampa Bay Free Beaches, and Dave got wind of it after we talked to him, MARYANNE did, and he built out the actual concept of it, of what it looks like, the look of it, the feel of it, how it works and everything. And we went from there. At that point, it was, would anybody come on board? And that's always the tougher part in any of this stuff. They always say, you always hear the term herding wild cats.
Yeah.
And it's very similar. We run into it in everything. We know it in Tampa Bay Free Beaches as well. Getting the groups to work together has always been a little on the tough side. They're very protective and very individualistic. And so that was the biggest hurdle there, but we overcame it and we got sponsors, and that's what started it.
All right. Well, very good. Now, as I remember from reading up on you just a little bit, you started this off at Lake Como, in fact, with the meeting, presenting it to various groups, and AANR, the national office, bought into it, as well as AANR Florida. So that had to be really good for your situation, having those two big groups back you right away, correct?
Correct. We had built it out, and we didn't promote it or do anything with it till we showed it. I think it was an AANR Florida board meeting.
Yes.
I think one of the big meetings here that year, and we wanted to run it by them, just hey, for goodwill and to show what's going on here. So we ran the presentation at the meeting. They were fine with it. They thought it'd be a good thing for everybody, type thing. And so at that point, once we let them know, is when we officially formed it. It had to become a business because it had to run as a business. Other than our other groups are not-for-profits and non-profits, this had to run as a business because we were going to be dealing with the tourism industry.
Oh, okay.
Taking on sponsors. Money has to come in to make this happen. Bank accounts have to occur. So we formally turned it into a business pretty quick after that to get ready for the conference in 2022 and stuff, and it went from there.
Okay, and it looks like you pulled in the clothing optional beaches, AANR resorts, non-landed travel groups. You pretty much went after everybody if they're involved in nudism, naturism, and forest. Like, hey, folks, come aboard and we'll help each other out, right?
Right. I mean, Dave's concept is, there was a wonderful article I think he did in the N magazine about it, and it's how much force you can have, when you put everything together like that, and it makes a difference for minimal cost because you're dividing it amongst many groups. You're kind of geometrically progressing that strength factor when you present at the tourism industry that these little groups would not be able to do on their own or be able to afford to do. It would cost them multiple thousands and thousands and thousands to do what we will do with a little bit from all of them. And it works out there.
Yeah, and that's a very good way to put it. A small individual group probably wouldn't have much impact, probably couldn't even present or set up a table at a
Correct.
conference because too much money. So you've come along, you've put this together, and now when you do presentations, who shows up? Is it you folks? Is it people from around the state or what?
Well, first of all, we have to set it up. Dave and Arlene come and join MARYANNE and myself, and we physically get the booth all set up. He does the design of it. He changes it out every year. And we have materials at the house here. He has them at his house, and wherever the conference happens to be, we meet there and get it all set up. And then, as Dave said, he's not as much of a speaker. That's not part of his enjoyment of this whole thing. He's loves to design it, yeah, and come out with the thought concept for it. So Mary and I are always representing it at all the conferences. And then we do get some help from different people at the governor's conference. We've had Shirley Mason from South Florida, a few beaches there. We've had from beaches. We've had Marisol, Martin Navoa. So there are several people who
Joe from
Joe
Montana.
came, but we try to get other people to join on, but it's definitely MARYANNE and me for sure. And then whoever else from the other groups will come and join to help at the table. We appreciate.
Okay. Now, we probably should tell our listeners just so they know Dave is kind of hiding in the background during this interview. He's with us. He's just said he doesn't want to speak because he's kind of the creative guy, but he's with us. So that's why we can't really talk about him too much unless it's positive stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, when Rick Dorsiak was on the show a few weeks ago, he talked about some dollar figures and looking over the material that you have on your website, which is FloridaNakations.com, and that's in the show notes for our listeners. Almost, or maybe even over by now, $1 million a year in parking just at Haulover Beach alone. Is
Correct.
That fairly
Yes.
accurate? Yeah.
Correct.
Yes, that's correct.
I mean, that alone should inspire almost any politician because politicians want votes. They want to be popular. They want to be, I'm the man or the woman for the job. And look at me, I'm bringing in $1 million just at Haulover Beach. Are you getting any feedback from the decision makers, the politicians, like, hey, Jack, Dave, MARYANNE, thank you, because this makes me look good to my constituents raising all this money?
Well, I can't speak for Shirley, obviously, down at beaches, but I'm sure they do because they've been doing this for years. Our direct involvement, the governor's conference, even though it calls it the governor's conference, isn't really a political conference. It's a tourism. It's tourism, basically. The governor doesn't come. But you may find some politicians walking around. It's like a giant trade show. So you'll bump into them there type thing. I mean, I'm more of our director. I don't want to get into that conversation because that'll be for another time. But as far as our direct conversation with political leaders, it's more involved with Tampa Bay Free Beaches because we have to, because we're working with them directly to get that. But yes, the money aspect is the winning aspect. When they hear the dollar amounts that come in due to what could happen on the West Coast and what is happening from all the other resorts, their eyes open up.
I saw the figure $7 billion with a B, $7 billion a year brought in to Florida just through the naturism industry alone. Is that about right?
That's correct.
Yes.
That includes everything from direct fees from the beaches to the tax revenue to obviously the money spent in hotels, restaurants. So that was done in 2017, I think, between AANR and NIF and a few of the other groups to come up with that survey. It is being updated this year at some point. Money has been set aside, so we should have some new numbers hopefully at some point. But that was back then, and yes, it was a $7.4 billion a year industry coming into the state of Florida, and that also opens eyes. And FloridaNakations, being what it is, can represent that number out there to the tourist industry and impress upon them. We're just as strong as a lot of other industries in the state of Florida, and we want to be normalized and part of that industry.
What's some of the feedback you've gotten so far? Are they looking upon you favorably? Like, okay, you guys are doing great work here.
Every year seems to be a little more favorable.
Ooh, very good.
It seems to be growing, the favoritism, because we work within, multi, areas we go into. And young people seem to be, a lot more interest.
Well, the businesses, I mean, that's more
in the
for
business,
but on the FloridaNakations end, I mean, there was a little bit of a nervousness on our first presentation.
Sure.
And I told this to a lot of people. Our first year there was, will we be accepted? How's that going to go? We were out there in full force right in front of everybody else. We had our booth. We weren't hidden away. This is what we're going to do. And would we be accepted? And we were.
I think we had one of the best setups.
People were told, loved the looks of it. They said we had the best looking thing there.
Wow.
And so, yes, there are, at anything we do, you're always going to have people who are going to glance over and then walk on.
Sure.
That's inevitable. But we were accepted by the overall business communities there. In fact, there was a remark from the man who, I forget what his role was with Brand USA. They were there the first year, and he came over and he goes, he knew about the nudist industry because he had been to Cypress Cove, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, you're finally doing something right. He goes, we can market this.
Wow. That's good to hear, isn't it?
And the time's not there yet, but he said, this is the way to go and do this, so we were accepted, and then we would go to dinners and sit while they're doing presentations and get the word out. And everybody was just so excited. We were so glad that we got taken in under their wings. But that led to our second year of, will they remember us?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of cliques there.
Mm-hmm.
Being there the first year like that, I kind of paid attention, looked around, and I noticed all these people know each other. Like, they're like family.
Yeah.
So they've been doing this from year to year to year, and they get together on these big things. And, obviously we're the outsider, and the thing is, for the next year, could we be remembered and become part of these cliques? And again, pleasantly surprised, they remembered us immediately and took us right in then without an issue at all. So we were very pleased at that. We're very professional.
Yeah.
We're not out there throwing everything in their face. We do it in a nice manner. I think they appreciate that.
Yeah. And that's really what sells to the non-naturist community. And, there are two issues at play here. The big one for us, at least what we're trying to do with this show more and more, it wasn't necessarily what we set out to do, but it's become what we're doing, is letting the world know. We don't say we're normalizing naturism. We're saying, hey, folks, it's already normal.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, we were literally born naked. Therefore, right out of the womb, it was normal to be naked.
Yeah.
We're just getting people to realize that and see it and say, when you go to a naturist place, when you get your clothes off, you feel better because we think that's how we were intended to be. And more than think, we know it because that's how we were born. And some people use that as a joke. Well, if we were meant to be naked, we would have been born that way. Well, that's cute and funny and whatever and haha. But the bottom line is that's true.
Yeah,
we could have been born with tuxedos and evening gowns, and then that's normal.
Yeah, true.
Naked is normal. And so when people show up to these places and they don't know about this, they'll say, "Oh, a bunch of naked people. We know
Yeah.
what they're doing and when they close the booth down at night. And it's like, no, not at all. We're doing the same thing you do. Maybe watch a football game or go
Yeah.
shopping or at a restaurant or something, right?
We gotta mow the lawn. We gotta do everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're absolutely the same as you. It's just we prefer to do it clothes free because
Correct.
we just feel so much better, right?
Correct. Yeah. And yeah, that's part of the education process.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what we do from FloridaNakations to, again, we'll get to the other one someday, Tampa Bay Free Beaches, whatever, it's all education. Most of it is.
Yeah.
It's putting out a presence in society that we're no different. We work the same. We play the same. We do everything the same. We just like to do it nude. It's no different. Our societal norms are the same. We just prefer it this way. And they don't have an understanding of that in most cases. You'll always find out when you get that little eye from them. It's like, even people I worked with were the same.
Sure.
You're told that and they figured, oh, we know what goes on at those places, until you get them there, so it's telling them this is normal. But out in the business world, you have to go about it differently and present as a business model.
Yeah.
To them to get that point across, and that's where FloridaNakations comes in extremely handy.
Yeah, and that's what they understand. And that was the second point I was going to make. The first one is it is normal, and once you try it, you realize, wow, this is a pretty good deal. But the other aspect is the business community. The business community understands a number of items, but to me, the people I've dealt with in the business world, the number one thing they understand is money, income,
Money,
and
correct.
balancing the books, and how can I make more money and spend less to get it. So when you come along and say, well, we just happen to have $7 billion in our back pocket, would you like to do business with us?
Yes.
My thinking would be most business people would be, well, where do I sign? I might have to check with my church or my wife or my kids, but $7 billion is a lot of dough to play around with. Have you come across people like that who want to dive in and have dived in, and maybe some others who I want to, but I need a little more time to make this work with whatever, my business partners, my family?
Your second statement is probably the more correct. They want to, a lot of them, but how do they do it is taking them time to figure out. We would like a lot more business involvement, for sure, from the regular businesses like hotels, restaurants, whoever's benefiting by this outside of that naturist group, because they all benefit by it, to get them to realize that this is they're going to gain by all this. That is a tougher sell on them. They accept what we do. They say this is great. To pull them on, it becomes a little bit more difficult. And of course, in today's society, everything's metrics and numbers. And as a small organizations, it's very tough to have all that stuff on a digital presence a lot of times to present to them to say, okay, this is our traffic here. This is what's going there. This is what's happening there through us. And a lot of them, want that. And to get that, you can hire companies who, a lot of them at the governor's conference, believe me, but you're talking tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars for these companies to do that for you. So we're in that transition phase, whereas you need that, you want the businesses on board, but the businesses want the metrics to come on board. And so it takes time, and working it every year, to gain that and see where we can go with it there. But that's one of our goals, is to bring all those businesses on to the website. I mean, we promote to them that we're kind of the premier website now for all around the world, internationally and domestically, to find a spot in Florida for vacation. They need to be aware of that and realize if we can drive the people from that to their business, wherever they're going to stay, that it will be beneficial to them in that arena.
There's a chart on your website. And again, we're talking to Jack and MARYANNE from FloridaNakations. It's FloridaNakations.com. The link is in the show notes if you want to find it. But there is a chart, I believe it's on page 12. It says Florida Nude Tourism Visitor Origin. So we're not just talking about Florida people trying to find something fun to do on a weekend. You have international at 28%, Canadian 36%, other states 36%, and of course a lot of Florida people too. So people flock from all over, including other countries, across the pond, as they say. And I know a number of them who have asked me about various nudist resorts. We're going to fly over to the USA for the sole purpose of going
Yeah,
to one of the nude beaches or one of the nudist resorts because
correct.
they've heard so much about it. So I'm guessing a lot of the credit goes to you as well as to other people. They hear about it and they literally plan their vacations around it. And once business people get that cemented in their brains as well,
Right.
probably the lid's going to come off.
That'll be the golden egg.
Yeah.
Once we get that connection where they know it, but now they understand how they can benefit from it, not be afraid of it.
Yeah.
That will be the wonderful time, and I think that's our goal for sure in that manner. I mean, I had Mary and I had met. They were one of the new cruises was leaving Tampa
Mm-hmm.
several years ago, and so FloridaNakations information was going to go on the cruise. Someone was going to represent us at one of the tables and bring it on the cruise. So we were sitting down there waiting. It was a cold morning, I remember. And for them to arrive so we could hand off the information. And we sat next to a Canadian couple, two guys from Canada, and we're just chatting away. And so I happened to bring it up. And they were totally amazed. I opened a flyer and gave it to them. They said, "We've been trying to figure out how to come to Florida and enjoy all this. And we
Wow.
couldn't figure it out. We go on the web, we can find this one over there, we can find that one over there. They could never plan their trip. And I gave them a flyer. I says, "Look what's here. It's all here, QR coded and everything. You can play." And they were just flabbergasted,
Wow.
and so that's obvious. That was the goal, and it was understood. These people realized it when they saw it, and that's what's going worldwide with it. And that's the, I mean, we've been published in the H&E Naturist magazine. It's the largest naturist magazine, I think, in the world out of England.
Mm-hmm.
It's been published in there. Of course, we've been in the AANR and the N magazine. So it's reaching out there to show people. But yeah, now we just get the businesses to realize that.
Well, as I told you before we started recording the interview, I'm from the northern states, northern USA, and I knew a lot of people up there who went to Florida every year for their vacation, whether it's Easter time or
Oh
Christmas or
yeah.
whatever. And I thought, well, that's nice. They're going out and, hitting the beach and, throwing a frisbee around. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until I was in my 20s, I found out, oh, no, they were going to the nude beaches and the nudist resorts. The sun is kind of a bonus, but they weren't just, you can go anywhere for the sun. You can go to other
Yeah.
places, but you can go to Florida and be clothes free in a lot of places. And so even people I knew really well, they didn't share that with me when I was a kid or even a
Well,
teenager.
right.
But
Yeah.
later on, when I began to talk about nudism, naturism, they say, well, okay, now that you brought it up, remember all those years we went to Florida? Yeah. Well, we were staying at, and then they mentioned a resort or a beach. So it's all over the place.
It
It's just
is.
not talked about enough.
No.
Oh yeah, I was in Mount Dora the other day. My sons and I were going around to different yard sales, and we were on Lakeshore Drive. Woman was having an estate sale.
Mhm.
And she just started talking to my sons on, "What are you doing?" They said, "Oh, we're just hanging out with mom." "Oh, you guys from around here?" "No." And they said, "We are, but she's not." And she said, "Well, where are you from?" I said, "Well, Tampa area." She said, "Well, I lived in Loops." I said, "Oh, that's exactly where I lived." She said, "Oh." I said, "Yeah, Lake Como nudist resort." And she looks at me. She said, I used to go there all the time."
There you go.
It's
So
very
it's
common, yeah.
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 We even find that out because we're on a lot of Chamber of Commerce uh, out in our area working on the beach. So we're part of a lot of chambers and we go to a lot of political stuff. And all you got to do is bring it up. And
Yeah.
there's someone there who says, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I used to go here. I used to do that." Or my parents, like they'll say, "Oh, my parents from Germany," they love that type of stuff.
Or I've been looking for a place. Yeah.
Yeah.
But unless you talk about it, it's not going to come up. And there's a great shyness even among nudists because they're afraid of either the whiplash or how they're going to be looked at to publicly talk about it. And it makes a big difference. Once you bring it up, all of a sudden, a lot of those walls crumble
It's amazing,
and
isn't
you
it?
find out.
I know
Yeah.
some people who have kept naturism material on their lap when flying on a plane not
Yep.
even looking at it. It's just there. So if somebody sees it, hey, what's that? Oh, well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And then a conversation
Yeah.
begins and they
Yeah.
react the same way you did.
Yep.
Yeah, I went to a naked beach back in, whatever. And then the conversation is off and running. And that's also one of the things we're trying to get over is why are we hiding this?
Yes.
Yeah.
If it truly is normal and it's great and terrific and wonderful, kind of like, eating chicken soup when you have a cold, we don't hide that.
No,
Why don't we just get
exactly.
out there and proclaim it, right?
We need to, because I proclaim quite a bit that if you're afraid to talk about it, you're kind of ashamed of it.
Yeah.
And that comes across to the public. I think, whether it be resorts, beaches, national organizations, and or TNS, you got to get us into the real world and let them know we're here. Don't
Yeah.
be afraid of that,
Yeah.
because it does give that impression at that point that, yeah, we're doing something bad.
Yeah, and we're certainly not. Now,
We're
on
not. No.
that same report on your website, I'm looking at page 14 now.
Okay.
You talked about some community leaders in general are against expanding and promoting nudism, naturism, tourism, because number one, it's not legal. Well, duh, we could change that. But
Yes.
two, it
Right.
won't be accepted by residents. So you did a survey, and the first one is about support for nude sunbathing, which I want to talk about in a minute. But on your chart, based on your survey, 73% of people said sunbathing nude is a great thing.
Correct.
That should
Correct.
turn the tables right there to me. What do you think?
Right.
It should. Of course, they're willing to do a survey, whether they're willing to say that
Right.
publicly. Those are two different animals. But yes, a lot of people would like to be able to. Correct.
Yeah.
So that's a big number. It's a number that helps us at FloridaNakations, certainly working with the businesses and everybody. And it helps everywhere to show people do want this.
Oh, yes.
Now let's monetize it.
That's right. Well, even when I lived in the northern USA, there'd be 3 or 4 months a year you could lie out in
Yeah.
the sun nude and take in the sun. And the home I had up there wasn't necessarily overly private to the neighbors
Okay.
on each side of me as well as behind me. I did have some land, so it wasn't like they were 2 feet away,
Yeah.
but they could be in their kitchen window looking out, or they could come in their backyard and definitely see.
Yeah.
And so, it was never discussed, but I was always trying to be careful. I don't want to
Right.
be one of those guys that just shows up naked in his backyard, because
Well,
that
correct.
gives us a bad name too.
Yeah.
But there were a couple of times that people came out, and I thought, oh, shoot, now I have to find a way to cover up or sneak inside. But 2 times in particular, 2 different neighbors just yelled over, "Hey, Frank, how you doing today?"
Oh.
And I thought, okay, now they know I have no clothes on,
Yeah.
and they're acting as though it's normal. This is great.
Yes.
And so of course, they knew me already. I wasn't just some unknown guy. I'd lived there
That
a number of
helps.
years. And they got to know me. So, okay, Frank was cutting his grass the other day with clothes on. I saw him put a suit on when he went to work. He's naked now. Whatever. It's Saturday
Yeah.
or Monday. Who cares?
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference too. At least to me, it did.
It
And
does.
now you bring Florida into the equation. Well, now to me, all bets are off, because it seems much more supported down here. Have you found that to be the case as well?
Overall, again, because they don't dwell outside of, there are issues in Florida every year,
Sure.
politically.
Sure.
Despite the money that comes in, despite it all, there are legal struggles up in Tallahassee every year. Certain politicians or certain groups wanting to limit the scope of what we do, or trying to
Cut it out.
criminalize it almost, and with that attitude.
Yeah.
So it's not like it can't be just accepted that it's great in Florida.
Yeah.
We are the capital of the world, which gives us a great clout. I think what happens in Florida, or what we can do in politics in Florida or in tourism in Florida, is kind of help set the standard for around the country, because we have such a big clout there, because of the temperature, first of all, obviously, the wonderful weather to be able to enjoy it. The per capita nudist resorts. There are a lot of beaches around the country that don't exist anymore. Nude beaches. Yet Florida, we have, 4 on the East Coast, and hopefully soon 1 on the West Coast, which will, outnumber everybody. I think California's down to 1 full nudist resort now.
Wow.
Due
Are
to
you
attrition.
serious?
Yeah, due to attrition from age, value of property.
Right. I did see that. It might have been sold, but there's only one nudist
I
club
think
left.
there might be. Is there any
There,
going
there might be, I
maybe an
think
AANR?
maybe two, but there's not, like a couple of them have just recently sold.
So Florida's kind of like in a good position as far as that's concerned. But it's not that the government totally accepts it here either.
No.
And that's our goal.
Yeah. Well, being surrounded by water on three sides
Yeah.
with, depending on where you live, year-round sun and warmth, and I can pretty much be nude outside comfortably 11 months a year. Now, you move even farther south, like to Miami, Key West, it's 12 months a year,
Yeah.
if you choose to do so. So that makes a big difference.
It does.
What do you know about the following? Obviously, 4 nude beaches in Florida. I want to talk about those 4 in a minute. I know of at least 1, 2, I guess 2 offhand, and maybe 3 in California. What do you know about the all 50 states that take California and Florida out? Do we have nude beaches around the country?
No.
Gunnison up in New Jersey.
No,
True.
we do have them, but
Yeah.
we don't have them everywhere.
Okay.
I see there's Gunnison beaches, Gunnison in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a lot of, there might be like lakes that have the beaches on them in what was it, Oregon?
On Lake Tahoe, I think that's a nudist
yeah.
beach on Lake Tahoe.
Okay.
There are several like that. There's some on a river.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a fight, I think, in Wisconsin to maintain the one up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Okay.
Of course, there's Black's Beach in California.
Right.
But there aren't a lot.
There's
No.
no.
When you think of the coastline of this country,
Yeah.
a lot. We've lost Fire Island, got shut down up in Long Island, so that one's gone. Moonstone Beach in Rhode Island went a long time ago. They blamed it on the piping plovers. Well, they're all up and down the Rhode Island coastline.
Yeah.
So obviously that was just an excuse to shut
Right.
it down. So a lot of those have disappeared, either due to political environments of the time, or the groups don't watch over them as well as they should, because you need to. People take nudity, some people do, who don't understand it, take it as a license to do whatever they want.
The very terrific Jack and MARYANNE from FloridaNakations. You can find all of their information in the show notes. And on next week's show, part 2 of my interview with Jack and MARYANNE from FloridaNakations. And before we depart for another week, let's bring back in our naturism correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Welcome back, Lisa.
I'm glad to be back, and I have coffee.
All right. That is something that is never in short supply around here. We have to admit that, don't we?
Oh, we certainly do have it in abundant supply, and it's a wonderful thing.
It really is. And I'm trying to think of when this was. I think I was still in my 20s. Well, of course, I'm 27 now. So my earlier 20s, I used to load it up with half and half.
Oh.
And I noticed I was putting a few pounds on. And one day in a restaurant, I read the ingredients of half and half. Like, well, no wonder. So I quit cold turkey that day, went with black coffee only, and that's all I've ever had since then. I've deviated maybe 10 times, 10 cups over the years, but otherwise it's black coffee all the way. How about you?
And well, I started out as a purist. I like it I like just nothing but the coffee and strong. And, had a friend whose father was in the Navy, was a captain in the Navy, and he used to say coffee was not good unless the spoon stood upright in it. That's when it was strong enough. And so I'm not quite that bad, but I've always been a purist. My mother and father both were black coffee drinkers. My mother started doing cream later, but got to be the natural stuff.
I tried this one thing. I can't think of exactly what it's called. I think it's called whipping cream, not whipped cream, but whipping cream, which is 100% pure, no holds barred, and let's just go for the gusto kind of cream. Forget half and half. This is 100%. And that is really delicious stuff, almost to the point where I felt I could get hooked on this pretty quickly, but then I would balloon up to, a couple of 1,000 pounds. But kind of a treat once in a while, but I do try to avoid the sugar because I know what that does to me, and nothing good. How about you?
No, sugar is not good. But there is other thing I want to say about this. The The most important commodity on the planet is water, because without water, you cannot make coffee.
There you go. That works for me.
Me
Well,
too.
great to talk to Jack and MARYANNE. We'll have part 2 of my interview with them next week. And with that, Lisa Monroe, let's head for the hills. Have a great clothes-free week. We'll see you next time.
You too. Take care, and everyone have a great week. Go skinny dipping.
Absolutely. Well, you've been listening to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 107 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts, and also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, anyplace. And we thank you for being with us today. Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all. Remember to enjoy being naked and join us again for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist. Have a great clothes-free day.